Okay, now moving on to next sentence here. This is the second tape in a series of 3 dealing with LIKUTEI MOHARAN, first essay of collected essays of NACHMA'S, LIKUTEI MOHARAN. And like I explained in the first tape, I'm going very deep here. This is the 3rd time I've gone over this stuff over many years, and I'm finding all kinds of connections that I didn't find before. And I'm not being at all, I'm allowing myself to just let it all come out here, and maybe I'm wrong, but this is my point of view. Okay, so we go on here. We just talked about Yaakov being the reference point here of Breshit, beginning, origin, creation, total action, actuality prior to potentiality, as Aristotle would put it, origin, all that stuff. The middle way, balancing passivity and activity. The next sentence, basically, he takes another metaphor and just replaces Yaakov with another metaphor. This time the focus is more on the light coming down from heavens, and he's comparing this, making an analogy between the sun and the moon, in the sense that, remember we talked about the chokhmah, the rays of awareness coming out from me as one bird, and I contact some object like a towel over there, and that bird comes from the towel, and the 2 birds come together, have an orgasm together, and that's a moment of reality, a moment of pure awareness, unless it's inhibited by inhibitions or whatever it is, or by neurotic blocks of awareness. People that aren't in touch with their imaginations won't have awareness inside. People that aren't out of touch with their bodies won't have that reality. People that are out of touch with the environment live in a kind of a cocoon and cut off from their people they know, their spouses and their children, whatever it is. All kinds of ways of being messed up, having less reality, less shleimut. This wholeness. Okay, so now we're talking about the sun and the moon. Now, again, we keep going back to the idea of chokhmah, bina, the 2 sides, the subject, the object. The object out there is here in this case becomes the moon. And the sun is illuminating that, and the perfect relationship between the 2 of them. Again, it goes back to the idea of the balance between activity, passivity, left and right, and that's again Yaakov. So now instead of Yaakov, as the synthesis, we have the 2 parts, the sun and the moon, split up. So he puts it this way: "Zeh bechinat shemesh, ki hasechel hu meir lo b'chol darachav kamo hashemesh." And that is the aspect of the sun. Because hasechel, and then we talked about that meaning, could be the idea, but it most likely here it means the moment of awareness. Meir illuminates him in all his drachav, his way, all his path. Kamo shemesh. Now we just talked about the idea that Yaakov chachmani pamayim. Twice we got wisdom from God when we went around the dialectical circle, from the first tzimtzum, from the one to the many, and then from the second tzimtzum, the second contraction, to the many to the one. We got 2 times we get wisdom from God every time we go around the dialectic, if you look at it that way. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and listen to the first video, because there's a lot more I need to cover here, so I'm not going to repeat myself. Alright, so the same idea. The sun here, in the idea that the sun now represents the messianic idea embodied in Yaakov as a perfect personality, the vessel for the spirit, illuminates us in all of our path around the dialectic, around every moment of our action we do in our life. You know, the spiral. Each time we go around a circle, it's another stage of the dialectic, another level of dialectic, thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Then we go to the next circle, and endless spiraling up there, or going down the side of the induction, the side of induction. All right, so the sun is the image of the light coming down, the total authentic action, what Aristotle would call actuality prior to potentiality, the moment of Breshit's creation, that that big moment when everything, a person makes a decision in his life to do something, to be an actor in his life, that's like the sun, and that illuminates all the stages. Like a person decides, okay, I'm going to keep the Sabbath this week. So that idea is like the sun. And then all the preparations for the Sabbath this week are illuminated by that. Until the Sabbath itself, the idea of keeping the Sabbath and all the preparations come together and are illuminated in one, the oneness and the manyness, the identity and difference, God and the world and God, the whole dialectic. The Sabbath is a good example of the whole process of the sun illuminating us in all our way, all of the path. Okay, the initial idea that a person makes a choice in his life, and that illuminates all the consequences of that choice, for better or for worse. You know, might lead to disaster, whatever it is, but a committed choice. Okay, next. וזה בחינת באורח צדיקים כאור נוגה הולך באור עד נכון היום וזה בחינת חטא לשון חיות החוכמה תחיה. The way of the just man, I'm translating, the way of the just man, the wise man, is that induction awareness needs to permeate in the deduction to sustain it as life form. Let's make sense of that. So in this light that's shining us and illuminating us in all our ways, this is like the path of the righteous. Now again, not Yaakov is the middle pillar, and Tzedek is Yesod. Tzedek is another name for Yesod, the idea of the Sephirah just above Malchut and the tree of life, the one that symbolizes action. Person, that's where your balls would be if you're a man, between your legs and the rest of you, so that the place of the balls, Yesod, is the foundation of action. Okay, look at it that way. So, so the path of the righteous, in other words, the person that's balanced in the middle pillar, which is a tzedek, the two sides, justice, is like sunlight shining as it approaches noon. So again, dialectically speaking, what's noon? Noon is the high point of the action. Now, you could think of it as the high point where all the different, in the first Tzimtzum, the oneness breaks up into the million moments of awareness of a living experience, and then in the conflicts that emerge, that moment of intense conflicts, impasses, being stuck, you can say that's the noon. And then everything builds up to that, and then the Tzimtzum moment, defining the new idea, and the impasse there, and then the ascent on the other side. You could look at that would be noon, all right? But you could look at it either way. Maybe the whole action, the entire cycle, down the side of induction, up the side of induction, maybe that's the whole thing. But the point is, it's the same idea with a different metaphor, okay? Right, now we get the same, we keep getting the same old stuff from that, but we're always with one metaphor after the central metaphor of this whole piece now, he's approaching that, he's built up to it, is the relationship between what he calls chet and nun. Again, very simply, if we have me in the towel, chet is my idea that I project out there, the bird that flies forth from me, and the one that comes from the contact boundary, what I see out there in my awareness, that's the nun. In what sense is it nun? Well, the word nun, definition from the dictionary, to shine forth, or to sprout, radiate, or to be established. It has several different meanings, and they're all relevant. Taking the example of the towel, let's see if I can use it there. So I'm aware of this greenness out there. Okay, the moment I'm aware of greenness out there, remember we said I'm creating a hole in the matrix. I've destroyed negated the functional idea of that towel as something I need to wipe my face or something, and I'm replacing it with a free object of my experience, a monad that out there I see greenness, or now this time I might see something else. Now I see a light green line on the bottom there. Okay, so that's my awareness now. It's a different monad, a different living moment of reality out there. Okay, so that's the nun. In what sense is it nun? That, what we call in Gestalt therapy, the contact boundary. I contact something, I permeate it with living ideas here now, awarenesses, and make it like a sponge instead of like a rigid object. It's a towel. It does this and that's it. I made it a living organism. Instead of calling it dead form, we would call it live form. So I've established, each of these moments of awareness establishes a new center of consciousness in that thing. So the fully established towel has lots and lots of moments of awareness that I've worked on, and the light of that towel begins to radiate forth and illuminate my existence as I relate to the towel and project more and more of my life onto the towel. You know, oh, let's see. I'm green. I'm suspended here in the middle of the air. Can I relate to that? Can I identify with that? I'm green. Yeah, I'm just getting started in my life. I'm 70 years old, but I feel like I'm just a greenhorn. I wish I had another 70 years to learn all this stuff. You know, there it is. I illuminated myself with the image of the towel as a greenhorn, getting started in life. So you see, I allowed my chokhmah to be established there in this object. At the same time, each of those monads that I projected out there, each of those gestalt awareness moments out there is established and grows. It could be another potential world if I want to identify more and more with the towel instead of identifying with myself as the professor right now. So we have the idea of live form. This is very important in theater work. Actors need to turn dead form to live form. So I talked before in the first tape. If I have this image of the bow, okay, and I want to make it a living experience. If I were a kid and I want to play with this thing in a kids show, I could take this bow and I could wrap it around my neck, and I can play a music on it, dum 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 dum, whatever I want to do. That's making that dead form, that functional bow and arrow, which is intended to kill things or maybe like that, and I'm turning it into a play object, which I'm illuminating with all my here and now, hits, ideas about it. In a theater, a person that's capable of doing that is what we call an actor in the Brechtian theater. This is the idea that Brecht, the kind of theater that Brecht, the epic theater of Brecht, where it's based on using a lot of intelligence rather than the actor surrendering and becoming lost in the character. Rather, the actor is playing with his material and showing the audience how to be liberated and to use the world as a creative tool to seek enlightenment or whatever. It's also the potential basis of a Jewish sacred theater, and that's one of the projects I'm hoping I've been many years I've been trying to get that started. Occasionally I get one actor to work on something for a while, but the sacred theater isn't. Certainly, most actors don't want a sacred theater. They want a functional theater. I get up there, I do my bit, I get lots of fame and fortune. Either I get money or I get exhibition. I can show my ass, how beautiful I am, how talented I am. My mother's going to love me, and my teachers are going to love me. Maybe I'll make money. You know, that dumb theater again is matrix theater. But where I'm talking about a theater of live form with a performer on top of its material, we say going beyond the image, going beyond the frozen image of a bow and arrow into a creative tool for a merkava, a vessel for the spirit, as part of my world that I am creating here. Okay, so let's see now. So going back to the text, and this is the concept, so we have the sun shining as it approaches noon, okay? And this is the concept of chet. Chet. it suggests chiyut. He's playing with the word chen. He's working up to the word chen. Chet, nun. So first he takes the chet and it plays with that, makes that chiyut, which is the chokhmah, the idea of the first bird coming forth, and then nun, the other one, nun, then he puts the chet and the nun together, and we have exactly the idea I just said of life form, with the relationship between the subject and object in this inductive manner. So that's what he's calling the relationship between chet. Chiyut is vitality. He plays with that relationship to vitality, which is the chokhmah, the pure idea. Wisdom gives life to those who possess it. Then he goes on, however, because the light of the inner intelligence is so very great, it is impossible to attain except through the concept of nun, which is the aspect of malchut, kingship. Right? Now, I find this most easy to relate to this in terms of Gestalt therapy. We have if I start out a 3-hour session working on a dream, I start off with awareness. I'm aware of this, I'm aware of blackness here and whiteness here, relationship between the two of them. I start off with that. And I'm working towards getting to this existential message of the dream, the Var Hashem, the Word of God, that I'm going to get to 3 hours later. But in order to do that, the Word of God doesn't just pop into my head. The person has to do what's called work. Marx made a big thing out of this idea of work. The proletariat doing work, the demiurge and Plato, the idea of work. Demos orgos. Demos is people, orgos is work. The work of the people. The dialectic here is doing work. So there's a stage, we need to work through the stages of the thesis, the antithesis, and synthesis. So if I start off with I'm aware of this, and my Gestalt work, next thing you know, I want to work on a dream, this image and that image, it reminds me of association, my relationship with my uncle, with my father, with my dog, with whatever it is. We set up dialogues, or maybe there was a tree and a cloud having a relationship in the dream. All of these stages here are stages that a person goes through in order to work by associations to get to the final message. And this is inductive logic, the whole thing. Nachman said, my whole Torah is associations, and Gestalt therapy also. The whole Torah is associations. Mostly associations, anyway. Although there's a certain amount of deductive thinking involved also. But it's mostly a process of ascent on the right side, chokhmah, chesed, chokhmah, through inductive logic. And so the stages, the opposites, playing this versus that, this versus that. That's what he's talking about by Malchut. Okay? Kingdom. So we need to go from, again, because the light of the inner intelligence is so very great, it is impossible to attain except through the concept of nun, which is an aspect of Malchut, kingship. Right now, let's say I'm going to work with the relationship of me and my father, okay, in a Gestalt therapy session. That's one of the antitheses that I need to go through from I start off with the thesis, the oneness, and I get factored into all these opposites, and here's an opposite of me versus my father, say. And then I want to get to the final synthesis of integrating my relationship with my father into a bigger concept of love or growth or saying goodbye to a dead man, or it could be all kinds of action involved here. So that the moment of opposites. Now, if I work with my father and I get stuck in a thing where, he's always saying yes and I'm always saying no, or vice versa. He's saying you're no damn good and I'm saying you're no damn good, and that's what we call dead form. Because the relationship, there's no growth here. There's the pure idea that could pull a thing forward towards the final action of saying goodbye to a dead man or loving my father, whatever it is blocked because the two sides there are frozen into preset game images, preset frozen roles. He's bad, I'm good. The opposites. Pompous ass, piece of shit, as they say in Gestalt therapy. I'm a pompous ass, he's a piece of shit, or vice versa. And the two sides are totally split. It's a dead form. We call that, Nachman calls that, kingdom of evil, kingdom of shells. So the kingdom idea, the Malchut idea, is this intermediate stage of the dialectic from where the opposites emerge, and we work with them in our life. Malchut de Kedusha, the kingdom of holiness is when these opposites are working in the relationship of chet and nun, which is what we call chen, grace, good contact between the two sides. So if when it's very important, that's why in Gestalt therapy, you want to play both sides. You don't want to do psychodrama where you have somebody else playing the other side and you only know about your side. No, you want to play both sides so that you can identify, find the, as Nachman says, find the idea, find the seichel, find the contact in that other, in every object and every side. You go back and forth. As you're doing that, you illuminate the other side. So if I'm playing myself here and my father's over there, so and I see my father and then I play him, the moment I play him, that frozen image I had of my father is now, becomes a nun, becomes a life form, because it's opened up by the moment of awareness that I, instead of seeing the frozen image out there of him, by coming him, I open up to the idea of awareness. I break, I dissolve, I negate the matrix there, and there's a moment of life form. All right? Nachman uses, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but since it's coming right up out of it, I'll mention it. He mentions this is the idea, if you want to give a person, request something from a person, you need to have a relationship of chen, grace, chet, nun, relationship, the life form relationship, the two birds, contactful relationship, and that opens up a space in the heart of the other person. See, that's a nice homely metaphor, space in the heart of the other person. But really, in terms of the theory, though, it's simply negating the matrix, negating the negations of the one without a second. You might, as you would say, because the matrix is a negation of the one without a second. God is destroyed when God freezes into a big system. And by seeing the other person as not part of a big system, but as a living object that I can see his point of view, identify with him, then I'm establishing this idea of chen. We have the same thing in the Ashlag Kabbalah, by the way. Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag points out that what makes a person really a human being rather than an animal or a plant or inorganic is this ability to identify and see the other side of the person. And see his point of view, and that's exactly the same here. The idea of humanity for Ashlag is like the idea of chen here for Nachman of Breslov, and we call contact, good contact in Gestalt therapy, and Malchut, the Kedusha, holy kingdom of illuminated world here. They're all related metaphors. Okay, so we go on here now. וזה בחינת אורח צדיקים כאור נוגה הולך באור עד נכון היום. So nachon is another synonym for yinon, the establishing of the light. V'zeh b'chinat chet, vitality. All right, we talked that about already. V'achokma techayet. The idea when I kind of use to have the chet nun relationship, pure contact, illuminates. Techayet will bring to life. Mechayeh detim brings the dead form back to life. The dead image of my father becomes a living image of my father that I can work with. If you saw my videos, you see how I work with images of my mother, my father, my brother, bring them back to life in the here and now, and then I can progress with those relationships because they free them up from the frozen matrix. There's all kinds of ways of expressing this idea. It's a very basic idea. Any kind of dialectical philosophy. In the Kabbalah, we have the idea that Chokhmah sustains the hidden light in Bina is Chokhmah. The hidden light in the lower level is the next higher level. So, for example, if I'm in a relationship with my father and we're stuck the love is not really getting across, you know. It's somewhere in the background there, but it's not coming forward in the relationship because we're frozen in stereotypes and games and blaming and all that stuff. So then, but meanwhile, it's potentially there. If we can get beyond this point, the love idea would illuminate. So what the theory here is that the higher level, which is the love that wants to come out, is at the same time the hidden light that keeps the lower level of our relationship going. As long as I'm willing to talk to the guy and try to deal with him, then that next higher level is like is permeating the lower level. So Chokhmah is the hidden light of Bina. Okay, so the hidden light of Nun is Chokhmah. The hidden, for example, I look out there and I see a white wall. So I project onto the white wall. I'm a white wall. I'm in this room, and I'm like a Franklin. I'm like a nice, comfortable home for you. A whiteness. I could be black, but no, I'm whiteness. I fill up your life with light. Okay, now I just identified with the wall. I brought the wall to life for projecting an idea of something that gives light. Then I can say, oh boy, I give light to everybody out there. I'm illuminating your existence, you know. And I learned that from the wall, you know. The wall just taught me that. So the idea of light was potentially in the wall all the time as a hidden, the chokhmah, the wisdom of the wall was there all the time. But unless I engage myself in the chen relationship, contactful relationship, chet nun relationship with that wall, I don't discover what the hidden light is, and so I couldn't share with you the idea that here I am illuminating your life because I hadn't yet talked to the wall. I got to talk to the wall. I'm going bananas here. They're going to come and commit me. I'm totally involved in a schizophrenic world here. But okay. So, what's next? To mention, we talked about life form, okay? In the Buddhist theater, in the Tai Chi, for example, you know, they're always doing these kind of forms in a kind of a soupy way, so that Chokhmah is always illuminating Bina. Here's a perfect example of the Chen relationship. You know, that the form never freezes, but in the theater, actors learn what they call the pure process mode exercise, and I think I demonstrated it, but I'll just show you right now. If I'm going along here, and I'm watching my whole body is in touch with my body, I'm doing awareness, and I'm watching for hits, ideas, possibilities. I say, oh, that's like hi, I'm waving on there. So the hi idea suddenly came out of nowhere. A little bit of deduction popped into the world of induction. So this is a matrix idea. Saying goodbye, hello to somebody is a matrix idea from the what I learned, you know, in childhood. I'm supposed to wave at people and say hi. But now I let that hi dissolve back into the soup here, back into the pure process mode, and now I'm back into the nun, pure chet nun relationship. This is induction. I'm doing induction. Everything is awareness, one gestalt after another. Nothing becomes a dominant gestalt. But when the moment I let that idea of hi emerge and become the dominant gestalt, I drop my induction. I'm into deduction here. I'm setting up a new matrix based on the high world, the world of highness, and I'm saying hi. Okay, so you see the relationship between chet and nun here. The vitality is my mind here, like Moses with the horns, reaching out all the time, projecting awareness, and I see something and I'm in touch with my hand inside it. Sometimes I can feel it, you know, like I feel tension there, and I say, oh no, don't, no, back off, no, lay off. So I get associations, okay, you know, lay off. Think of 10 people I could say that to. So again, sometimes the contact experience is not a visual, but here it was in my hands, the experience, the tension in my hands gave me that association. Again, Nachman Breslov says, my Torah is totally bechinot, associations. That's the path of pietism, the path of Kant's aesthetic motion. All right. Ew. אך מחמת שאור השכל גדול מאוד, אי אפשר לזכות עליו כי אם על ידי בחינת נון שהוא בחינת מלכות. Okay, because the light of the pure idea, the final existential message of the dream that's going to emerge after 3 hours is just such a something that is so hard for me to accept. For example, there were times in my life when I was stuck with the relationship with my father. Just the idea to be able to express love to him, it just seemed like something so hard to do. You know, he was so ornery, or at least I thought he was ornery. Now that he's dead, of course, and I worked on a relationship with Gestalt therapy, now I can regret that I didn't express more love. But at the time, getting lost here. Yeah. Okay, so that final idea that came out of my Gestalt work on my relationship with my father, the love, especially loosening up the love thing, was very hard to come out. So when I did the Gestalt therapy work on a relationship with my father, or also just me mourning, over the years, whatever, little by little, the idea of love was able to somehow penetrate the frozen roles and illuminate them, and the Chet Nun relationship happened there. So that's what he's saying here. Since the light of the pure idea, the seichel, the ultimate big idea, the ultimate total awareness, the seichel, mistaklut, what we are aware of, what we see, what we find, what we can assimilate, the assimilable novelty, is too much for us. We can't do it except we need the nun. We need this malchut. We need this stage of opposites to get to the synthesis. We got to go through the opposites. And the two sides, Gestalt therapy focuses on the two sides here, the chen and the nun, chet and the nun, play acting those two roles as a way to help us get from the initial state of being caught in a matrix, you might say, frozen roles and habits, confluent with our habits, to get to that final idea of love, or saying mourning a person that died, or orgasm with a person that you're trying to have sex with, all the different things that block it. We need to work through. So, for example, in the orgasm thing, if you just meet a woman in the street, okay, hey, here's the money. It probably won't be very much of an orgasm. But if it's a person you know in an in-depth relationship over a period of time, and you work through all kinds of things together, then that's the Chet Nun thing. That's the intermediate stage. Building a kingdom together of living relationships based on chen, based on great grace. Chen means grace. Good contact, delicate relationships. Then the orgasm might happen, much more likely to happen. Okay, so another thing, if you're into alchemy, by the way, you can look at this in terms of the water, earth, air, fire. We talked about Tzimtzum. The water is where the initial idea, the side of deduction, breaks down into all the opposites. Earth, alchemical earth, is the idea that everything is stuck in the opposites, impasses. Air is the idea that somehow the air gets into the earth and somehow breaks it up. Ether, pure air. The empty space, Tzimtzum idea. And then fire is the new idea that comes out of working with the impasse. So that the same idea here. So the air is you might say, is the element of when we do Gestalt work, awareness. When I'm aware of something, I break up the clot of alchemical earth, all the frozen matrix, and I aerate it, you might say, illuminate it, so that the fire can come forth out of these relationships. The more I create inductive spaces of induction in the matrix, the more places there are where my life could be on fire. Life on fire. I mentioned that in a video I just made. coming from a good contact. Okay, I mentioned that Nachman talks about the sun and the moon here. He's comparing it to the moon. Well, I disagree with Nachman. I think the moon is not a very good example here. The moon, the sun relationship to the moon is that this moon simply reflects the light from the sun. But we're talking about nun, and not simply reflection. A living relationship with an object, to some extent, involves identifying with that object, being able to see its point of view, even if it's just a grain of mustard seed, you might say. And that's not simply reflection. There's something else much more involved there. So I disagree with Nachman about the choice of the moon, but he might have done it for other reasons, because of wanted to make certain points about the halacha, whatever. So he might have grabbed on the idea of the moon, but he should have known better than that. All right. Each person is required to give strength to the kingdom of holiness so that it may overcome the kingdom of the other side. Well, that's obvious, right? The more, and now here's a very important idea. To give strength, where is this here? Okay, here's what I'm looking for. ועל ידי מה שהוא נותן כוח למלכות דקדושה. By means of what does he give strength to how do we strengthen the kingdom of holiness? Okay, well, we just, obviously the idea, the more awareness we have in our life, the less we're stuck in the matrix, so the more we have a kingdom of holiness instead of a kingdom of dead shells, of dead form. Al yedei haTorah shehu osek b'koach. That's a very important idea. So he says, if you deal with the Torah, al yedei haTorah shehu osek b'koach, that he deals with it with strength. Va'azai mekabelet hamalchut shehi b'chinat nun chiyut min ha-chokhmah. In other words, then the whole thing works. The nun chet relationship works. Now, I want to go into this idea of al yedei haTorah shehu osek b'koach. First of all, the word Torah, we need to look at it. Obviously, we're not talking about it's a bunch of rules. We're not talking about halachic Torah. We're talking about latur as a root for the word Torah, a spiritual search, the truth search. All right, the truth search is all over the place in Nachman of Breslov. He's always talking about truth, searching for truth. Osek b'choach deals with the Torah, this truth search, b'choach. Now, there's a very important connection to Gestalt therapy. In Gestalt therapy, they make a distinction between creative aggression and a violence. Creative aggression is based on awareness. Violence is based on the matrix. Very simple. If we see the world as black and white, this and that, love him, hate him. Does what I want or I kill him. Things like that. A grid of frozen categories with not much relating going on, then we have to resort to violence because we're caught in our habits and there's no way out. And without contact, to deal with another person without contact is violent. To ignore the other person's needs, not to identify with that person's needs, is violence. Whereas creative aggression is based on, another way that they talk about it in Gestalt therapy is creative adjustment. Is based on awareness, based on being in touch with reality of the situation. As they say, if you don't deal with the reality of the situation, reality will deal with you. Reality of the situation will deal with you. So in terms of another word for creative aggression is this whole idea of the divine light coming down, or makif, the encompassing light. So the light, the pure idea, a one idea, God is going to create the world. Okay, He's going to break the oneness down into a million different creatures. That's already energy, life force at work there. It takes energy to break something down into a million pieces. And then the second stage, to overcome all the obstacles, to bring everything back together again, to get peace in the world, back to oneness again, that also takes a lot of energy. So there's two kinds of ways that the life force is involved here in this dialectic. And in each case, if it's based on awareness, contactful relationships, then it's creative adjustment, creative aggression. But if it's based on the absence of that, then we're back to the idea of Malchut, the Klipa, the kingdom of shells, kingdom of evil. So I just want to make the point that when he says here, dealing with the Torah with koach, with strength. So that what I mean, what I believe is implied here, to deal with our life, with the process, the entire dialectic of our life, our action in our life, with awareness, proper balance between deduction and induction, active passivity, middle way. And again, to be like Yaakov, to get the double wisdom, the wisdom. Remember the double wisdom, chachmani pamayim. The first tzimtzum, we get the first wisdom, breaking everything up into the million aspects of reality. The second is bring everything back together again. It's a second wisdom. We learn how to do that. So God wises us up twice. We get the negation of the oneness, and then we get the negation of the negations. So the path of double negations, first the negation of the oneness, and then the negation of the negations of the oneness, to get back to the oneness, is the path of double wisdom. All right? And that's creative aggression. Energy needs to be used in a contactful way to accomplish those goals. And if the energy is used not in that way, violently, to force things without setting up the chen relationship, the chen nun relationship of live form and dialogue, ida relationships, then we're not doing Torah with strength. We're doing Torah with weakness or with disease. Okay. Checking how many minutes I got left here. I lost track. 1 second. Got a one-man studio here. And we got 43 so far, 43, 53. I got 15 minutes. I'll try to finish this up in 15 minutes. Ki al yedei hachen, it's very important. Ki al yedei hachen nechkak v'nirsham makom balev hamitbakesh lekabel habakasha. Ki al yedei hachen nitkablu devarav. Right, very important sentence. By means of the grace, which is now we know that's the relationship of the ched and the nun, the live contactful relationship. Nechkak v'nirsham is engraved and written. Makom, a place. Belev mitbakesh. So if we want something from somebody, and we deal with the person with grace, with good contact, with proper identification, with empathy, whatever you want to call it, then that opens up, we're introducing awareness into that relationship. So we're breaking up the matrix in that point, and we do it in a number of different places in that relationship. So we have a porous, we're like a sponge there instead of like a wall, and that opens up a place. Hamakom. What is Hamakom? The Makom is a name for God. Hamakom. So what are we saying here? Contactful relationship based on creative aggression, working together to solve problems. What do we get? We get Hamakom. In other words, being totally involved in the situation and all the realities of the situation. with good awareness in the body and the fantasies and the senses, hearing the person talk, hearing your own voice, monitoring whether you're sounding hard or whether you're sounding humane, whatever, all of that stuff. Noticing if you sound like a monotone, dead voice or something. Being in touch with the reality of the situation, hamakom, and that's God. That's the way to get to God. I remember I mentioned it a number of times, but I'll mention it again here. In Aristotle, there are 26 principles which Maimonides took from Aristotle in the Guide to the Perplexed. The beginning of the second part, he lists the 26 principles. Number 13. If you've seen my video or other videos, you're getting tired of hearing this already, but number 13 makes a distinction between linear motion and circular motion. What's real motion is circular motion in one place, hamakom. And what's in a circle? The dialectic, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, and all the time the same place, but all the time moving up the Jacob's ladder, or for induction, down ladder for deduction, and the relationship between them, and the middle way, and Yaakov, and the whole business here. So that's hamakom. And if we let hamakom, God, or the total reality of the situation, into the relationships, then there's possibility of dealing with the relationships. We're dealing with any object, the same idea, the grain of a mustard seed. Have faith in a grain of mustard seed. That's a nice image, or a piece of stone, or whatever. And if you really get into that, then, for example, a lot of artists, for example, the way they would paint what they say in Taoism, before you paint the branch, become the branch. Get to know the branch, get into it, get into the reality of your relationship to that thing, and then paint it, and you'll discover God in the tree or something, whatever it is. By the way, I have a video, about an hour long or something, dealing with a branch. We're doing Gestalt work on a painting of a branch. The same idea. Okay. We're almost done here. V'al ken Yaakov shehu b'chinat hasechel al ken zacha lechen. So Jacob is again, there's an example, there's a symbol of ken because he represents the balance, the proper balance between the right side, which is the side of the chet, this bird coming out, the subject, and the nun, the other bird, the contactful and relationship with the object. So that's symbolized by Yaakov. The middle pillar, repeated again here. But that's also the balance that needed to be a prophet. We talked about that, the theory of prophecy, that the seichel comes down on the shefa, the inspiration comes down on the side of the reason. A person needs to use all his wits first to solve the problem, and then his intuition to get the balance between those two is to be a prophet. So again, the same idea of active passivity, balanced, endless. Ki Yaakov v'Yosef kechada chashivei v'al ken ne'amar b'Yosef b'chor shoro hadar lo b'chor hi b'chinat hasechel v'zehu shoro lashon histaklut ki tzrichin histakel b'asechel sheyesh b'chol davar. He's repeating. It's like a symphony here. He's going back to his main theme. It's an ABA sonata form. He's going back to his main theme here about seeing the intelligence of each thing, or histaklut, finding the assimilable novelty, what you can contact in each moment of awareness, and allowing that to happen. And he needs to get back to the idea of, to finish off his dialectical thing here, so he plays with the relationship between Yaakov and Yosef, and saying basically the same thing, and the same idea, again the idea of the Bechorah, the actuality prior to the potentiality, the Genesis, Bereshit, the first moment of the action is the and he's tying that in with Yosef and his oxen. He's playing. He likes to play with words, so he's playing the shor, the oxen, And also, just like he did in some other, an essay in number 7, he talks about the angel that encompasses the 2 abysses. And again, he talks about the ox as the angel. Why? Because shur ties in with the root lashur, to see, to gaze. Again, histaklut. Again, contacting the assimilable novelty, be able to deal with awareness, with grace, with the situation. All right, and then finally he ties it in with a little Hasidic story, a little Talmudic story. It goes like this: that wave which would sink a safina, a ship, appears to have a spark of white flame at its crest. We beat it with a staff on which was etched Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. Again, that wave which would sink a ship appears to have a spark of white flame at its crest. We beat it with a staff on which was etched Asher Ehyeh, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. Okay, now the idea of etching, we already talked about etching, inscribing God as the writer, always encompassing us with moments of awareness, helping us to get in touch with reality, and that's allowing us to enjoy this chet nun relationship, and not getting stuck in the matrix. He's always rochev al aravot. He's always on top of the system, illuminating the system, and so this etching. Every time I'm aware of something, I'm opening up spaces within that grid, that matrix. For example, my father, seeing little moments of contact that I could find, and little by little dissolving this frozen image I have of him, the chet nun relationship. So that's the etching idea. We beat it with a staff. So that wave which would sink, a spark of white flame. This lavan, whiteness, lavan, symbol of the matrix, symbol of the klipa, the malchut of klipa, the kingdom of evil, the kingdom of the frozen image. Again, I'm not so happy about using Arabs and other peoples as symbols of evil, but there it is right there. So we beat it with a staff. The staff here in this case probably the symbol for straight yashar, straight action, being authentic action, and authentic action in the here and now, surrendering to the coming solution, as we say, the final cause, letting it pull us forward. Opening up, let God saturate with our situation with all kinds of holes of awareness to break up the matrix. So that's the staff, and that etches into our so that etches Asher Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. So the name of God is now being etched into all of our here and now experiences. Remember, the name of God, that's the integration of all different points of view, of all the different awarenesses, all the monads coming together into this big glory, kavod Hashem, glory of God, tangibility of God, integration of experience, enlightenment. So that's what he's alluding to here. This wave, is a wave of evil, symbolized by Lavan, or the moon, as the two relationship with the moon, and as that which is a frozen matrix, and we beat it, we overcome it with authentic action in the here and now, based on awareness, and that's how God etches. God's writes on our everyday life, writes on us in our life, His name, through all the moments of contact, coming together into authentic action. So we're being written by God. God is the author, and this is an image, by the way, you see a lot also in George Haman, not just Nachman of Breslov,